All right. Good morning or afternoon. Good evening, you guys, from wherever you are around the world. Awesome to be back with you. And we've got a great show lined up for today. I hope you guys are doing well. Tell us where you're from. Hey, Hunter. Thanks for joining us. And you other guys, there we go. There's Jared. I was wondering when you were going to pop in there. We can't start a show without you. I mean, it's pretty much impossible. So thanks for joining us, Jared. And our other Jared is on the line here. So, hey, without further ado, let's get things rolling here. First of all, we're having some interesting weather here in California. I just got to tell you, it's springtime. We have a weird climate in my part of California. The best weather is in our fall and winter. I mean, in the summertime, we often have lots of coastal fog. And then right now, like yesterday, it was in the 70s, and the waves were so huge. I put a photograph on Instagram. You want to look at it. Waves were huge. The guy on the wave is about this big, and you can see the wave is about that big. So you can kind of guess, like if he's a 6-foot guy, that wave was 24, 25 feet. Went out last night with a 70 to 200 lens. And I was trying to get the sun behind him, but where the wave was didn't match up. But I managed to get a really good shot of this guy just coming down the wave. Why not show you? I'll show you here in a second. Anyway, that's us in California. I don't know what you guys are experiencing. I'm sure it's totally different. Let's see who we got here. Andrew from England, Somerset. Cool. Nemi. Hey, Nemi. Good to have you with us. And JP, okay, in Kansas. Awesome. And let's see. Henrik is from Copenhagen. Thank you for joining us. And the morning peeps. Okay. And hey, Paul in Ontario, Canada. Awesome. Okay. Well, listen, let's get the party started here. So I am Marc Silber. I'm an author, photographer, educator here in Carmel, California. A stone's throw from where Ansel Adams and Edward Weston lived. I mean, literally, I could be there in 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And the show today is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo, and you can get these cool discounts. The exposer is what you see behind me here. This is called an exposer. It's a print made, you can see it's vinyl, and it's made on a hanger here that you could switch around. You could switch it to other photographs. Pretty cool. You can see in the ad here, you can see a part of the hanger there. You hang it on the wall and it just floats. It's very cool. Those are 10% off. I would get some more if I were you guys. All right, get one. 10% off. You got that. You've got your 20% off on gallery boards. Those are cool. You just, they kind of sit on a desk. Those are another way of getting your photos out. 10% off on photo gifts. Why not just make a bunch of gifts for people out of your photography and give them to them? You've got all these different things to choose from. Everybody needs a mask for a while anyway. And, you've got this variety of gifts, 10% off. And as always, 25% off on your first order. So support your friends at Bay Photo. Support your own photography by getting your work out to the world. Okay. All right. Well, Jared, let's get started here. I'll turn on your camera. There you are. So what's our first question? Shoot support. And by the way, it's not too late, right? They can still pop a question in, I guess, in the AYP Club if they want to ask a question, or leave it in a comment for that matter. Okay, Jared, I hope I've got your audio on here. Yep. You should be on there, right? Maybe not. Okay, so let's see. Maybe I've got to add you in here. Yep, I do. There we go. Well, there's Jared. I'm going to go back to your screen. Let's just do this again here. I don't know exactly what happened here. And I still don't hear you, so I'm getting you out of there. Oops, I just disconnected Jared. Okay, well, he'll call back. The magic of technology here. Let's hook him back. There he is, back with us. So okay, I can hear you now. So let's assign your...
And let me get my screen share back.
Get your screen going again. There we go. That's it. Okay, now let's assign that. There we go. We're going to assign that to guest 1. And it's flickering away in some crazy fashion. I'm so glad you guys are there we are. Okay.
What do you know? It's not flickering all crazy like.
Now it's good. And we can hear you. We're all set. Okay, well, Jared, I think I need to pump your volume up a little bit. But
okay.
There we go. So let's dive into the first question.
All right. So we got a couple of questions from Jay, but I thought they were all pretty interesting. So here's one. Does the edit to reduce the saturation and brightness of another color, green, the green grass, is that something that works to help bring the focus back to the red-blue dynamic? So obviously this is a picture of a Google Maps person who is
getting... What that is? Okay.
Yep, that's a Google Maps. So that's what they take, when you do the street view of Google Maps. So they are doing that. So I think they reduced how green the grass was because they found it distracting from the blue-red dynamic that they wanted.
Okay. I don't think any of us would have known whether you reduced it or not. So it's really kind of more your call. I mean, I have no way of knowing if that grass... How green it should look. So this is your artistic call on that one. I don't know. I mean, maybe it would be fine if it's normal green color because that bus or trolley is so vibrant and it's so much going to dominate the scene. I don't know that it would really matter. It might even be interesting if the green stripe and the green of the grass are somewhat close to each other. You could get kind of a, the sort of vibrancy effect between the two of them. But this is really your own call on that one. If you feel, this is the thing, as a storyteller, it's like, do you feel it's pulling it away? Obviously you did, so you adjusted it. I've done stuff like that, especially if it's brighter. I will definitely tone it down because I don't want, a bright spot to pull my eye away. So, again, this is kind of in your court to figure out if obviously you felt that was the case, then go with it.
All right. And now another question from Jay. This is another one based on color. So I wonder if the idea that it's not pin sharp allows the viewer to focus on the color instead of the person and all the green that is around them. They're planning in December to experiment with color more, specifically like really vibrant colors.
Let's bring that up there. Okay. Well, listen, here's the deal. When we look at people, or animals for that matter, we connect with their face and primarily with their eyes. So if it's out of focus, we can't quite connect. If they're in motion, we could accept the fact, okay, movement, I get it. But in this case, your guy is not moving, and the leaves are a little sharper than him, so I wouldn't do that. I would reverse it. Make sure he's sharp. The leaves can be out of focus. It's just kind of, there's certain conventions that our eye is used to, and one of them is people should be in focus, especially their eyes. Again, unless there's motion, we could forgive it because we go, okay, they're moving around. So just now, in that case, I'm going to just say go for the focus on the face and the eyes, and if you have the depth of field, to let the leaves kind of blend into the background, then great. You know, that just, again, helps to bring the focus to the subject. I mean, what I like is the framing of the, you know, the green behind him makes a very easy backdrop. There's no competition with him, and he stands out against it. So that works really well.
All right. So now we go to our final question, which is
One thing. I'll just pop a little story in. I like to tell I didn't start with a story today. Gosh, maybe I should do that one of the. Okay, but anyway, I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you guys a AYP story. The very first shoot that I did with AYP, I hired a guy, to do my camera work, and I myself was untrained as a video guy, and I concentrated, which I normally do, on the interview, and left him to the camera work. Well, he stuck this interview was with Chase Jarvis. It was a big interview because he was like my first sort of like modern hip photographer. I selected a location in San Francisco. It took a lot of work. I had to get permits and set it all up. And we got there and we got cameras set and everything's rolling. I'm rolling away on my interview. Talked to him like the next day. Hey, how's that footage? He goes, wow, the B-roll came out really good. B-roll is not the main footage as it suggests. It's the auxiliary footage. Now, if somebody says, you're making a dinner. Hey, how's the dinner coming out along? Well, the muffins were great. The fact that they're not mentioning the main meal is a little suspicious. Well, yeah, the muffins are incredible. What about the roasted chicken? Oh, well, that got kind of burnt. So this guy put it on autofocus, which focused way behind us, and we were out of focus. But the bushes behind us were in focus. No, that didn't cut it. Can't do that. That's a little more of an extreme story. I had to regroup. I went up to Chase's studio and reshot that whole thing, which turned out to be a great interview, but not the way we had to do it. So that was a big wake-up call for me. I thought, okay, I don't care who's behind the camera. I'm going to check focus, I'm going to check exposure, and I'm going to know what's going on because it's my responsibility. You're responsible for everything in the frame. Remember that? Okay. Let's see what Jay's got going on here. What's happening with Jay?
All right. So, on the topic of focus, they said, I want to ask about the line for images that are not exactly in focus, but might have a composition or moment or shape that makes it have more value for consideration.
Okay.
So here are a couple photos where the focus, isn't
soft.
But the focus is soft.
Yeah. Okay. You've heard me, with a quote from Cartier-Bresson that's, focus is bourgeois. However, it's a tool, and it's a tool that you use to say, am I going to help tell this story or not? If it's slightly out of focus, I wouldn't do it on purpose. But again, what are the circumstances where you might have something not totally sharp? Basically motion, right? And in that case, it probably does further the story. But if it's not moving around, I don't believe, this is my call, your call could be totally different. I don't see how, in this case, the photograph is aided by it being slightly out of focus. You can think of it in different forms of art, like in music. Would a fuzzy sound, there is this thing like a fuzzy bass that sounds, it's not sharp, it's fuzzy sounding. The Beatles used to use it, and it's you hear it here and there, but they use it very sparingly and only under one particular song, let's say. So I think you have to think in terms of, again, what's the convention that we're all kind of drawn to, making sure that we see things and they're in focus as a general rule. If the subject is in focus and the background's out of focus, great, because that helps identify the subject. But in this case, see, he's not quite moving. He's stationary. He might have been moving. He might have been turning his head or whatever. I would just go sharp with that. Also, make sure you're not using too low a shutter speed and getting camera motion. That could be happening here. I can't tell. But, these are, let's just go back to one of the first comments I made. It's your artistic call. If you are in control, and you're responsible for everything in the frame. Okay? And if you feel like this particular image, for whatever reason, you want to emphasize something, generally I would say motion, you let the focus go soft, okay. That's your call. How are you telling this story? It's your story that you're telling. As much as I'm speaking to you. In a story, maybe somebody sounds muffled and you can't quite hear what they're saying, but that's on purpose. But I think generally talking like that's probably not going to be the greatest thing. You know what I mean? So there you go. All right, who's next? Rami's here. Hey, Rami.
Our next one is this is actually related to a photo that we had on the critique show. Yeah. So this was the original image, and you had commented that they should brighten up the face. So this is what they did.
Okay, yeah. And you're heading in the right direction, for sure. Let's go back. Let's just kind of look at those together. Yeah, I mean, huge difference. Look at now, Mom. We can see her expression. Go ahead. Yeah, this is very, very dark. Much better. I'm not sure if you did a local adjustment. Looks like, let's go back. Click it back again. Yeah, I think you did a local adjustment on her face. You're definitely getting there. I would also suggest, so the tree behind her is much brighter, and unfortunately that's now pulling my eye away. So I would, I would pull down that tree, another local adjustment on the tree. So you see it kind of makes my eye bounce off of her face over to the tree. Yeah. So just pull the tree down. Simple local adjustment, just reduce the exposure. It's almost, wow, she's almost like backlit. I mean, she is backlit, but it's not quite hitting her. This, again, I think is in your original photograph. If you had moved her a little bit, you might have been able to get her like a little bit more of that backlighting going on. But you're definitely headed in the right direction, okay? Because now we see her, and she's more popping out. Let's reduce the tree. I don't know if you can go any farther. Probably not much farther with the shadows on her face. I might tweak it a little bit, but definitely you're going in the right direction.
I think the sky's a huge improvement too, because before it was
that was pretty.
White,
you brought the highlights down.
Grayish color.
You brought the highlights down, so that's good.
Yep.
And again, there's only so much you're going to do in post. So it's more, I think, a lesson in terms of making sure your subject is lit properly to begin with. And that could be done with a reflector. Again, I think I mentioned this before. You could even have a white t-shirt on. A white t-shirt will reflect light back to, especially since you're facing the light, you would get a little reflection back onto her. A newspaper, Bob Holmes talks about, you could have a reflector. You could have a fill flash also, just soft bit of light hitting her face. Just bring it out. That would serve the other purpose of balancing the light from the background with her face. You get a better balance there. Okay. Who's next?
So this one is from Divya, and I thought this would be interesting to look at. So it's her first long-term project.
Okay.
She's focusing on a temple in her village, and it is for her grandfather that passed away in '84. and she wants to capture some of the activities that happen at the temple. So these are all part of the project.
Good. Yeah.
And I think she was looking for some feedback on this since it is her first
Keep
long-term
going.
project.
Just keep.
This is all of them.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, just keep going and building it out. And if you're going for a story, then start thinking about what story you're trying to tell here. And that will guide your photographs. Like what's the story of this location? Go back to the little boys. So the strongest photograph for me is this one right here. That's a great image. You've got, this main boy that's closest to the camera in the foreground here, but there's a cool geometry between them. It's called 3-point composition, because you have 3 points. Your eye is basically going to. That's a really strong image. But here's what I would do. Write down what story, write it down in your notebook. I've told you guys to use a notebook, right? Write down this. What is the story we're telling here? And then mentally, this is where visualization comes in. I was talking to the AYP Plus group yesterday about how important visualization is. And by the way, you guys are not in there. You should join, because you're going to get stuff I'm not talking about in detail on the YouTube show. I'm going into much more detail. How I get inspired, for instance, what visualization means. What's your vision for this story? Work backwards. So what do I want to end up with? If I have a series of photographs, what do I want to end up with to show to people? That's the end product. And go backwards from it and get those stories that add up to it. Think of it like if you were writing a book, and a book has many chapters, right? So what's the overall point of this book? Where am I going with this book? Okay, then each chapter is a sub part of that book, and those chapters should add up, and at the end the reader has been thoroughly entertained or educated and in the subject. So in the case of, say, create, I broke it down into what are the key things that I consider important about the creative process, and those were the chapters. So, and then in between each chapter, I had interviews with these really creative people, and I tried to fit the interview as closely as I could to the subject matter of that chapter. So you're going through a logical progression. And a photo story is exactly the same thing. So what's the overall impression or impact that you want to leave your viewer with? If it's honoring your grandfather, awesome. But fill that in. And then you can start to visualize what photographs you're going to put into that story. And you can even write them down. Like, let's just say you are definitely, it's all about honoring your grandfather. Okay, so I would then highlight things that would have been important to him or that he participated in. Maybe your grandfather had something to do with these children. Not these, obviously, these children, but children. And that was really important to him. And you can even put that in your text. One of the things that he prided himself in was making sure that it was a safe place for children to play, or whatever it is. That's in your text. And then you can go think about, like, what are all the points of interest about my grandfather? And that might come from interviews that you do with people who were there. Now, here's a cool tip. While you're photographing, you can also cover the text. So you can interview, like, go back to some of these other people here that would have been around at the time of your grandfather. Yeah, the guy on the right here, let's say. Go back to that last one. The guy on the right, either one of these people, let's say they knew your grandfather, and instead of shooting him from behind, you're shooting him in front, and while you're shooting them, you're interviewing them. Now that serves a couple of purposes. One, you can turn on your recorder, even if it's an iPhone, just record the conversation, and it takes their attention away from the camera and puts it on telling a story. And they'll be talking to you, they'll be talking to each other. Like, I like this picture, but I would like to see it more from the other side, because it's not a clear, like, I can't quite clearly see this conversation, and the guy in the middle is sort of jumping my eye over. I want to just focus on these two guys. And let's say they're talking about your grandfather. Turn your recorder on, take a lot of shots. Now you've got photographs and you got text. You can take that, you transcribe it. There's online transcription things you can even use, and then you edit it, and you've got photos and text at the same time. I'm telling you some tricks of the trade here, folks. Okay.
They just mentioned in the comments that the person on the right that you pointed out
Is
is
your
her
dad.
father.
Oh, well done.
So
let's put that.
So that'd
up
be a
there.
perfect person to interview then.
Absolutely. So definitely your dad is a good source of interview. So yeah, you got it. And just keep building the story, but you're on the right track. Well done. I'm
All right.
happy to see, a photo story being developed here.
And actually, continuing on this, she actually just submitted a question about one of the photos that she took. So this is a new one that she just shared.
All
She
right.
said, "I tried using tilt horizon. I feel it adds motion to the photo. Is this the right way to use tilted horizon?"
Good question. It's a really great photograph. I don't feel it's enhanced by the tilted horizon. That's your call, though. I probably wouldn't have even thought about it because I sort of think maybe this is pretty slanted playground, but I'm sure it isn't. I would say no. Here's why. You don't need it. You've already got, like, less is more, right? You've already got this great photograph. This boy in the foreground is so engaged. You don't need to add anything to that to build interest. You've already got interest going here. So straighten out the horizon. Maybe bring up the shadows of his face. He's got a rim light around his head, which is cool. I just probably bring the shadows up a little bit so we can see more of him. And then, just tweak it a little bit. But in general, less is more. I mean, your image is doing the job. You don't have to add to it. Again, if you have a great meal, there's sauces that we can add to things, but what if it just stands alone beautifully on itself? You don't want to just pour something on top of it. Not that you're pouring anything, but it's just a little touch that I don't personally think is necessary. Okay.
All right.
Here's some. Rami made a comment, and yeah, we were just kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. Okay, yeah, it is. Maybe occasionally it works. That's the thing. Maybe on occasion there's some reason. I don't know that I've ever used it. Oh no, I have. Once I can think of one example where I was trying to illustrate angles in a video, and I did it on purpose. Jared and I did that on purpose. I was trying to illustrate, and I purposely tilted my camera but it was more just for illustration purposes. Yeah, I mean, again, just think of these things like seasoning in meals. Sometimes just you use a tiny bit, and sometimes you don't use any at all. There you go. The temptation can be to do more than you need to do. So don't follow that temptation. Just let the photograph do its work. All right.
Okay. So we've got this one. This one's from Ram. And it's one of our classic, is it better in color or is it better in black and white? So here's the
Now
color.
these are two different pictures, though, right? I mean, hang on.
These are two
Yeah.
different pictures.
Okay.
They're very similar, but two different ones. So I guess there's more than just the color to comment on as well. So which do you think is the better image?
Well, I don't. You know, first of all, it needs a little more work. And this is more getting into the critique show that we're going to do tomorrow. It needs some work because the subject isn't clear enough for me in either shot. Go back. The subject is a little boy, but I'm kind of hungry for something going on rather than just standing there. So emotion would have been great, like throwing a rock or doing something with one of the arms or running or this boy is not going to stand there like that forever. So you just have to be patient and wait for the motion, then you photograph it. That's what I'm hungry for in both of them, whether it's black and white or color. I can't, it's going to be your call. So, again, this is your artistic point of he's got this bright orange thing on, which is kind of good because it is identifying the subject. But the more important thing is we need something going on here that, bam, this is that moment that I'm looking for. Okay. So
All right.
yeah, just go out and wait a little longer. Be patient until you see that motion.
All right, we've got a couple questions that we should get to in the comments, so I think you can just go to your full screen while we cover some of those.
I can pop them on the screen if you tell me who they are.
Yeah, so Jared Tremper, our good friend, Chicagoland Jared,
Let's bring
said,
him up.
not a camera gear question. I'll let you
There
get that
is.
up. So not a camera gear question, but curious about data management as one's digital libraries and data explodes, especially if budget is tight. In other words, I'm moving files all over to save space.
Yeah, that's no good. You don't want to do that. Get an external drive. Listen, they've gotten so cheap that
So cheap.
Yeah, compared to what they used to be. Don't mess around with moving stuff around. External drives serve a number of purposes. You have them. Most computers are just not. I have a 2 terabyte iMac here, and I keep filling it up. It's ridiculous. Nature abhors a vacuum, which means you get an empty space. You know how you have a closet and it just fills up full of stuff? The same thing is true with your hard drive. You can keep emptying the closet or you should have smart management of your drive, but you got to go to an external drive. And then also for safety purposes, you want to have RAID, which basically, is a redundancy. And so if one of the drives fails, you've got other ones. Make sure it's a good quality one. I use SanDisk makes great drives. They're not they're part of Western Digital now. SanDisk was acquired by Western Digital, and they make great drives. You can get small SanDisk drives, solid state drives, or you can get much larger Western Digital. I have a number of Western Digital drives. I think they're great. But just it's an investment you want to make, for sure.
And it's not that much. Like Mark
Not
said, they are really cheap now.
Really
to
come
get
down.
even like a terabyte, you can get that real cheap.
Yeah.
But don't get the real cheap ones. Make sure that you're getting a good quality one.
Get a reliability.
You
You don't want to have. I have had a drive fail, and it's heartbreaking. Fortunately, my insurance covered the recovery cost, which was very expensive. And because it shouldn't have failed, my insurance covered it. But it's a heartbreaking, horrible feeling to feel like all your hard work has gone away. So don't even. And so you want to be. Like we built in a backup system into the studio, so that even this big 12 terabyte drive I have over here is backed up on another 20 terabyte drive. Yep, we're serious about it here. And ideally, if I didn't have so much video stuff, I would go to a cloud backup. But the problem is, you can't upload that stuff fast enough to make it really work. At this point, maybe we get high speed, super high speed fiber wire. What's it called?
Google Fiber is one of the better
Google
ones.
Fiber. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But yeah, go ahead and get an external drive.
All right. We have a question from Super Silent World. Do you have a message for those who live where photography is not that much understood by people, but they want to remain motivated to carry on clicking? What should make him continue clicking? And I believe in the comment right below that they say that they're a journalist in India. So
Oh yeah. Okay, here. So let's put that in there too. Oh, there you are. Okay, I guess you can only have one of these up at once. Well, listen, I think I consider it an advantage to going to places where people aren't used to photographers. You've got subjects who are not, it's open territory for you to photograph. So let me make sure I do understand what the question is, though. Are you asking within your own? Are you looking for a group that could make you be more motivated, or continuing to click comes from you, not from necessarily from someone else? It's good.
maybe they have friends that they're trying to get into photography, but they just don't get it.
Okay, that could be. You might clarify that in the comment. So in this case, hey, be the leader and get them motivated. And better yet, bring them on over to. My job is to motivate people and to educate them and inspire them. I mean, that's what I do, right? I hope. You can tell me if I've inspired you or not. I inspire myself, so at least one person likes what I'm doing. But if you're already a photojournalist, then one of the things about AYP is that you're supposed to be part of a group to advance your photography. You can also help other people advance their photography, and it goes back and forth. So I may have missed your question. I hope
They clarified a little bit more. They mean specifically shooting in a world. You could even bring that up. It's the most recent comment. Shooting in a world where people mock your art. So people, they understand. They don't understand it to the point that they don't even see it as an art.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And that can be very difficult to want to keep photographing.
Well, I wrote a book about this. I wrote a chapter about it, or a section of a chapter in this book, Create. You can't talk about creativity, whether it's photography, music, or any art form, without also talking about the downside. What's the dark side? It's negativity, right? People mocking your work, those are negative people. They're out there. 20% of the population, believe it or not. If you walk by 10 people on the street, 2 of them are going to be antisocial. Kind of a chilling thought, but it adds up. There can be varying degrees of how antisocial they are. And unfortunately, the internet, people can hide behind, being anonymous and throw rocks at your work. It happens to all of us. You have to get used to it. And can you see what this little sign says here? It says, kind of hard to, beware of vampires. They're vampires. And I have a little section here. Those negative folks who mock your art are vampires, and don't pay any attention to them. Just keep your art going, but be strengthened by surrounding yourself as best you can by those who are not going to do that. And one of the qualities of our AYP Plus community is nobody's going to do that in that community. Okay, they know the rules. We're here to be constructive, even if we, critique. We're not criticizing. Criticizing is just yip. I don't like it. It's no good. Blah 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 blah. Critiquing is you're being constructive. I did critiquing today. I'm not shooting at the person and saying, hey. I'm telling you where I think you could improve, and that's a critique. So seriously consider being part of AYP Plus, because you will find yourself amongst people, even if they're on the other side of the world, doesn't matter, which is the beauty of our modern technology. You're going to surround yourself by people who are on the same path that you are of advancing their photography. I hope that
All right.
helps.
Yeah.
And we still have, Jared, we're still offering a special on AYP Plus, right? Of some sort?
I don't think we are at the moment.
Okay.
But we do have a new payment if you want to do a 3-month.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what we did. We broke it into quarter.
Yeah. So when we had the sale going on, we had that, and now we've added a new quarterly payment. So
and you can do
for
it by
$97.
the month. Yeah.
Yep, by the month it's by the month 35. We'll bring that up at the end.
Yeah, bring that up. Okay. We got time for one or two more questions, or
all right. We got one from Brandon Saul. Hi from Ohio. Working on a long-term project. I hope you can let me start over. Hi from Ohio, working on a long-term project I hope to put into a book in the next year or so. What is the best way to get a release signed for street subjects so that I can use the image in the book? Oh, Oops. That would be Jared's comment.
Sorry, that was...
There we go.
Where are we? Oh, there we are.
Yep.
Oop. There we go.
You had it.
Okay, what's the best way to get a release sign for a street subject so I can use the image in a book? Yeah, you just have to go up to them. We have an example of that in our class with Bob Holmes, where we were shooting at a winery and there were people walking around. This one actual couple, we asked them to walk into the frame and walk up a set of stairs, and then afterwards I just came over. Bob did the photographing, and I came over and said, would you mind signing this release? Because we'd like to include this in our film. The other people, you couldn't see their face, so we didn't have to worry about them, but these were clearly in the photograph. So, if you're going to publish it, you want to get that release signed. It's just that simple.
And we did have some good other answers. Somebody also said that you can obscure faces in the shot.
Yeah.
That's another viable image.
You can do that. I mean, we did that. Or, but if they're, like in this case, these two women were prominent in the shot coming down a set of stairs. That's what Bob was after. And he brings that up. Like, I ask him, okay, Bob, when do you get them released? And he's, I really try to get them every time I can. If you should know the laws of your area, though, because, listen, we're watching this around the world. Every area, every country has different laws. I'm not going to give you a blanket answer. You need to find that out for yourself. But, a model release is your safe thing. All right. We got one or two minutes left.
Sergio Das would really like us to answer his question. He said he wants to know what we think of the Canon EOS 1200D.
I have no idea.
Yep.
I just don't. I'm sorry.
We're not really as much into tech here.
I just don't know. I'm shooting. I shoot with the EOS 5D Mark III and Mark II. Those are old cameras now. They're workhorses. They just keep working. I shoot with a variety of things. Yesterday I shot with a Sony. Shot with Hasselblad. I don't know. There's many people that are out there going to give you adequate reviews. Check with Ken Rockwell. He's a friend of ours. and he'll give you a good review. I'm sure. That's what he does. He reviews gear. DP Review also is another great source. But check with Rockwell. I would start there. KenRockwell.com.
All
Jared,
right.
throw that on there just so. By the way, just for gear, like Ken is just, this is what he does, you guys. He gets gear, he evaluates it, he gives you straight shots, again, even Jared on finding a drive, you might just Google in there or look in there and search around, see if he's made any recommendations recently about hard drives. He's a really good reference point to find gear and get answers to your gear questions. Check out KenRockwell.com. Okay, well, I guess we're about ready to wrap it up here, unless there's one more last question.
I don't think so. We've got one, but it's an old YouTube one.
Let's
so I
do
don't
it.
think that. I
Doesn't
don't know.
fit.
I think we might want to. I think we might want to do a bit more time on
Okay.
that. So we'll
All
save
right.
that for another time.
Okay.
I do have. If people want to check out the plans for AYP
Oh yeah, there
Club,
they are.
I've got them up on the screen here right now. I think you have to put it back on. Right now it's just
my
you.
face isn't going to display it. There you go. Okay, these are the various plans.
So you can get it $35 a month. You can get a whole year for $197, and you can get just a quarter, so every 3 months for $97. So this is definitely a really good deal here to just lock in.
Yeah.
You get all kinds of stuff.
We've been rolling out our classes, and I'm definitely talking about more detailed stuff than I certainly have on the YouTube show, and I will continue to do that. So, and also, a lot of interaction through our chat and whatnot. So as the show's going on. Okay, so
and just to kind of add a little bit, because Super Silent World did ask, why don't you offer free of cost photography education to those who wish to learn? I think that's what we do here on YouTube.
We certainly do.
You're watching it right now. We are limited by what we can do on YouTube.
Yeah.
AYP Plus lets us take off those limits, but it takes a lot more time for us too.
It does. I mean, listen, I've been doing 10 years, 12 years, something like that, of free classes. And you can look on our YouTube library that's just packed full of those classes. My blog, same thing. And the AYP Plus is really the opportunity to make this into a much more robust, a much more complete system where you're going to have a series of interconnected classes. One of the problems with YouTube is it's kind of like there's stuff all over the place. But to get educated, you need to follow a course of action, a course of educational material coming out in a certain sequence. And that's what we're doing with AYP Plus. You start here and you keep building on it. And that is something I can't do on YouTube because I have no control over who watches what, when, and it's just like you're going into the refrigerator and grabbing food out randomly rather than, which is fine. Maybe you're hungry and you can get a bite that way. But building a whole meal, or better, a whole series of meals, we eat 3 times a day, let's say. You want to have it be a good balanced series of nutritional meals, and that's where I feel I can do that with AYP Plus, so with your help. Okay, and you also, by doing so, you're also supporting this free broadcast, so that you handle 2 things at once. Help me, help you, help yourself. Well, Jared, I think that's about it. I guess, you know what I didn't say anywhere?
I just realized that too.
Yeah, we can't forget. You guys need to subscribe, enable the bell, and make sure you can leave your comments in the video. These comments stay up. You can share. You can let people know about us. That really helps us a lot. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the critique show. It's going to really just follow right along with what I was doing here today. So be with us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Make sure you get your images into AYP so we can critique them. You want to tell them about that, Jared, how they do that?
Yeah, so just join AYP Club. I'll be putting a link here into the chat, and just put #critique on your images, and then we'll be pulling them up. And the best way to make sure that your photo gets selected is be here live. Let me know that you're here, and if you're doing that, you have the chance to win a Bay Photo print
Oh,
as well.
that's right. We're going to give away another print. Awesome. Don't forget that, you guys. These are cool prints, right? Bay
Yeah.
Photo, our friends at Bay Photo are giving these away, and they're hundreds of dollars. They're anywhere from, I don't know, 120 to much more that you're going to get, and it gets shipped right to you. How cool is that? Boom. Okay, well, listen, you guys, always a pleasure being with you. Stay well, stay safe, stay creative, and remember to get out and capture your own images of life. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe, enable the bell, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 10 a.m.